Hello everyone and welcome to our kindergarten hibernation lesson. In this lesson, our students are going to be able to really see what the weather does to plants and animals around us and to us ourselves and really dive into hibernation and winter. First thing that you would have done is actually go hop over to YouTube and watch, or if you have the book, perfect, but the book that we would have just read is Bear Snores On. It's a great book about hibernation, so if you haven't already, go ahead and head over there, pause me for a second, and watch that video. That is one thing that we would have done before in this lesson. Welcome back over here to the main part of the lesson. We would have just read Bear Snores On, and I want to go over a couple little things that you are going to need for this lesson. This lesson is so easy to do just about anywhere. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can do it in a classroom, outside. All you really need is a computer to watch the book and this video on. And you will also need something to mark with and a paper or a board if you would like. Those are optional, but it's something that definitely I have with me right now. So first we're going to talk about the things that you would have saw in the book. Go ahead and pause me and kind of think about these questions that I'm asking you in our pre-assessment. What kind of animals did you see in the book? What was the bear doing in the book? What were the other animals doing in the book? Why do you think the bear was sleeping? What happened at the very end of the book? Those are great questions to get you pondering what happens with hibernation, which is the theme of this lesson. A couple other areas that we're going to dive into is our vocabulary for this lesson. We have some words that are really important for the reading in hibernation. First word, of course, we have winter, and a good word that goes along with winter, which is one of our 4 seasons that you may have around you. We definitely have 4 different seasons in Kansas. I know sometimes when you live other places, you don't get a full 4 seasons, but right here, it's about to start being winter where I am from in Kansas. Down here, we have the word freeze. Freeze happens when it gets really, really cold outside. You could feel yourself freeze and maybe the ground around you freezes. This happens when the temperature hits 32 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll talk a little bit more about measurements later on in class with our math lesson, but keep that freezing temperature in mind in hibernation. We also have some other words that go with hibernation. We have the word hibernation that happens to animals when it does become winter. We also have the word adapt and migrate. We will move on to those words here with the board in a little bit, but keep those words in mind. And lastly, habitat, where they're living, the environment around them, and our winter animals that we're focusing on in this lesson. We have bats, bears, turtles, rabbits, mouse, fox, squirrel, beaver, raccoon, bird, butterfly, whale, cardinal, and goose. Take a minute to think about it. Have you guys ever seen any of those animals around you? And as we think about that, I'm going to move on and show you my screen. And we're going to go ahead and watch a quick little video about hibernation. So listen very carefully.
Hey, anyone up for some talk? Oh, you must be thinking why these bats are not getting up. Actually, they're not sleeping. They're hibernating. Let's learn about hibernation today. The word hibernation is derived from the Latin word hibernate. That means to pass the winter. Yahoo! Follow me. For most animals, finding enough foodstuffs in winter can be difficult. Some animals like bats, bear, and others solve this dilemma by hibernating. It is a period of inactivity. Hibernation is a deep sleep that helps the animals to save energy and survive the harsh winter without having much food. During hibernation, the animal's body temperature drops and its breathing slows down so it does not consume much energy. In warmer weather, they come back to their normal, regular activities. Hibernating bears are able to recycle their urine and proteins, so they can go the whole winter without going to the bathroom. Hibernating animals get ready for their winter sleep by eating extra food and storing it as their body fat. which they use later as the energy during hibernation period. Some of the hibernating animals, like chipmunks, stores food in their shelter and eats them occasionally when they're hungry. Some of the hibernating animals, like fish, frogs, and turtles, shelter under rocks, logs, mud, and leaves in the water and come out when the weather is good. Paper wasps, yellow jackets, and some mosquitoes find a protected spot to become dormant until warm weather comes. Ants also slow down during the harsh winter. They find warm spots under rocks or tree bark, cluster around the queen, and feed off the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates they stored in the fall. Come on, let's see some of the animals that hibernate. Common poorwill. Many ornithologists say it is the only known bird species that hibernates. Bears. Not all species of bear hibernates. Females may have their babies during hibernation. Interesting. Bats. The bats can spend 64 to 66 days average in hibernation. Fat-tailed dwarf lemurs. They're the only primate known to hibernate. Common box turtle. They hibernate in well-hidden spots. Bumblebees. Males and worker bees die, but the queen survives by hibernating. Snail. They seal their shell opening with a dry layer of mucus during hibernation. And hedgehogs. Some hedgehogs do not hibernate, but some of them are the deepest hibernators around. Now you know a lot about hibernation.
Awesome job. Let's come back over here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. So you saw a lot of animals in there that were hibernating. So over here, I want us to take a second to think about that video. Think about the animals that you saw that were hibernating and what hibernation actually is. The video put it, hibernation is to pass winter. So the animals will stock up on all their food, eat a lot to where they don't have to eat during that time, and they'll just wait out winter in their caves, in their cocoons, a bunch of different stuff. So let's go ahead and look at our chart here. I made this little chart that's going to go over our winter months for winter animals. So we talked a lot about our animals in hibernation. So a couple different animals, like we said. Can you say it for me? If you said bats and bears, those are two of them. What is another one? Turtles. They did talk a lot about turtles in there. Can you think of any more that we could add to our chart here? Think about it and ponder it, and we'll add it at the end. Next, we have some other animals. You may be thinking, well, Miss Hayden, there's some animals that we didn't talk about that were definitely in our reading. Well, we have another section of animals that adapt, because not every animal is going to tucker down for the winter. We have some animals that are going to just kind of hang out and adapt to their surroundings. That means change so that they don't freeze in the winter months by maybe gaining more fur and things like that. We'll move on to adapting later on, but I definitely wanted to hit it now. We have rabbits, mice, and foxes. So these animals, they still need to eat during the winter. They may take some more time by sleeping, but they're definitely going to get up and around and adapt. So maybe gaining more fur, going into warmer places during the nighttime and things like that. We also have squirrels and beavers. So you may think, well, squirrel's kind of like a chipmunk, and chipmunks get up to eat and things like that. So maybe squirrels are going to adapt to where at this point they're going to gain more food in that preparation, but still have to go get out in the cold. And lastly, what do we have over here? Raccoons. So those are animals that definitely adapt to their surroundings. We also finally have migration. We'll talk a lot more about migration much later. But animals, they're not always going to hibernate or adapt. Some of them may move. If you have family members that go hunting, a lot of people tend to go hunt for the birds as they're migrating. So we have over here, birds. I gave that one away. Butterflies, a great butterfly migration is an awesome video for us to go look at later on. We talk more about what happens to our winter animals. And then finally, we have cardinals and geese. So these are mostly focusing on animals hibernating. We did hit, though, what the other book talked about, maybe those animals that were adapting, how they were all around the fire, snacking and trying not to wake the bear, and they were wondering, why is that bear not woken up yet? That is them adapting and not necessarily sleeping all winter. But focusing mostly on that sleeping all winter, let's pull up a picture here. Let me get my screen up. About where these animals are going to be sleeping at. Sorry, this is such a blurry video. Or blurry. Awesome. So we have our different animals. As you can see on here, we have a bear, a turtle. Maybe that looks like kind of like a snake, I'd say. Maybe that could be our beavers. We have some rabbits over here, and then we have in the tree a chipmunk. So this gives a great example of actually those two, animals that hibernate and animals that adapt. This graphic is going to be very important because you all are actually going to go into our worksheet here next as our end assessment, and we are going to put our animals and draw our animals using our writing skills where each of them go. So let's pull up this final one. We have this picture here. This is the worksheet that I highly recommend. You can pause me right here and recreate this, or if we're in the classroom, I would hand this out to you all. And you would go in here and definitely write who would go where. We have a picture of a cave, a tree, and some burrows. Burrows are going to be areas in the ground where animals are going to dig down deep to stay warm. Not to give you too much of a hint, but remember that picture I said maybe that's a snake? Those are snakes in the burrows. So animals could go down deep into somewhere to stay warm during the night times and really adapt to their surroundings or hibernate for that winter. I hope that you all enjoyed this video so much, learning about all the different types of animals in the winter and hibernation. That is your end assessment, is that worksheet. So have fun with it, color the different animals, draw them in their places, and hand them back to me or show your parents at home if you're doing this lesson at home. Thank you so much for joining along. I hope you learned everything about hibernation. We watched a video about what hibernation is and the different animals that choose to hibernate. We went over a chart in the middle of our lesson that went over animals that hibernate, adapt, and migrate. We'll get more into these two areas later on as an extension to this lesson. And then finally, we did that worksheet where we put the animals together where they would be spending their winter months with our winter animals. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great rest of your day, scholars.